Okay, this is the first part of the video lecture for human development. This is the PowerPoint that I gave out in class last week. We didn't get to it. I was going to cover that yesterday, but I wasn't there. So here we go. I have also emailed this to you in case you don't have a hard copy, and you'll need that to kind of take notes. You can take notes without the packet, but it sure does help. So, okay. I want to talk about education. We've been talking about children in middle school and sort of how they develop. And we talked about intelligence the last time we met. And I want to kind of tie that into the educational system because how children develop intellectually has a lot to do with, and otherwise has a lot to do with the educational system within society. So education, if you want a definition, and you have a few things to fill in on your PowerPoint packet, it's the process where society transmits knowledge, values, norms, and ideologies, and thus the process of transmitting society's culture to the next generation. Education isn't just about learning facts or memorizing stuff in schools. The actual process of education goes well above and beyond just that, and we'll talk about that as we go as well. Now, there's a difference between education and schooling. Schooling, and we may have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but schooling is the formal instruction under the direction of specially trained teachers. So schooling happens within the educational system. And there are several functions of schooling in the United States. Again, it's not just learning facts and academic stuff. The first function of schooling is socialization. What I mean by that, I mean children learn how to take turns. They learn how to raise their hand when they want attention from an instructor or a teacher. They learn how to treat each other and adults appropriately. They learn a lot of life lessons. They learn what it means to get along with people. So they learn those kinds of things as well. Another function of schooling in the United States is cultural innovation. We have lots of cultural advancement, technological changes and inventions as we're going through the educational system and we're sitting in schools learning about stuff. Some ideas could get planted or be cultivated that lead to great inventions like TVs and computers and cell phones and things of that sort. And also social placement. Schooling in the U.S. does serve this function as well. Not just within the school system, like for special ed classes versus general education classes versus gifted or college placement sorts of classes, but also social placement, and we'll talk about that too. Now, the first thing we'll talk about are values. Values are socially shared ideas about what is right or appropriate. Every culture has its own set of values. Some overlap, some are different when you look from culture to culture. Some values that we have within our culture are loyalty, patriotism, religion, material objects. We certainly place a high value on our material things, such as our homes and our cars and our laptops, our clothes, etc. And also education is a value. Education is not a value in every society. When you look at certain parts of the world, especially if you look to the Middle East, education is not valued for a very significant group of people, namely women, in a lot of places in that part of the world. So values can differ. We place a high value on education in the United States. Now, norms are accepted ways of doing things or carrying out ideas. Norms are not laws. Norms are not anything that you have to do to avoid arrest or prison. They're just kind of things that you're expected to do, ways that you're expected to think. I was always told when I was young, you always hold the door for a lady or for someone who's older. Another norm, if you've been driving in your car, you're sitting in traffic, and I believe I've misspelled the word wave. Oops, but that's okay. You get the idea. If you're sitting in traffic and you're nice enough to let someone out in front of you, you expect to get some kind of a nod or a wave or something, like a thank you wave. If you don't get that, it can make you upset. You can actually get kind of ticked off a little bit or angry if they don't at least acknowledge that you let them kind of in front of you. Again, it's not unlawful to stiff a server or a bartender in a restaurant, but it's customary, it's normative to leave your server some kind of a tip in a restaurant. So again, those are things that we just kind of expect to happen. Ideologies, this is the next part of education that I want to talk about, are systems of values and norms. So now we're taking norms and values together that members of society are expected to believe in and act upon without question. Capitalism is a good example of an ideology that exists within our culture and within our educational systems in this country. We're almost automatically expected to believe in, the free market, the idea of individualism, the idea that you can make as much money as you possibly can and prosper under healthy conditions. Christianity is another example of an ideology. A lot of us, if not most of us in this country, are still brought up to believe and value the basic tenets of Christianity. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, for example. We're expected to believe in God or the presence of a God, in a lot of cases still within this country. So those values and norms associated with Christianity are still alive and well. And that's also a part of the educational system. Now, all this is wrapped up into culture. Now, I don't want to turn this completely into a sociology lecture, but culture refers to a complete and total way of life for a group of people. There are many, many different cultures that exist in the United States. There's not just one culture. Within New York City, if you want to look at Queens, the borough of Queens in New York City, there are approximately 180 different cultures represented in Queens, New York alone. So that gives you a really good idea of what a diverse country we really are, especially when you travel into some of the bigger cities in this country. And those school systems, for good or bad, reflect this diversity as you're forming your opinion on that. Now, school tracking. This is the next thing I want to talk about. This refers to assigning students to different types of educational programs. When I was in high school, 20, almost 25 years ago or more, there were several different tracks. You could be in a special education track for children who have significant learning disabilities or maybe mental impairment. Maybe they're functioning significantly below average IQ or below intelligence, so they would be placed in these kinds of classes to help them thrive and succeed. We had vocational and technical training. You could learn, vocational trades or technical skills. And when I was younger, this was especially true for people who maybe were not heading for college, but wanted to learn, a trade. General education classes, just sort of your average run-of-the-mill curriculum, where most kids in public schools are going to fall even to this day. And then you had college preparatory classes. Today you have advanced placement or AP classes. I happen to teach a lot of the dual credit high school college classes in a lot of the high schools in Kanawha County and also in Putnam County. So there are different tracks that schools can place students, and it really sets the stage for how these children are going to continue to develop as they leave adolescence and move into early adulthood and enter college and perhaps even graduate school. So you have these in front of you. I know you may not be able to see it very well on this presentation here. But what percentage of a state's residents age 25 and over are high school dropouts? So we see some real disturbing and alarming trends, and you have this in your PowerPoint packet, and I'm going to kind of illustrate it. The colors here are going to help. You can see that West Virginia, of course, we tend to lead the country in terms of high school dropouts. We're around, depending on what statistics you look at, around 20-21% high school, percentage of our residents age 25 and over being high school dropouts. So we're close to 20-21%. That's a lot. That's significant. And you see the trends are generally in the South. You have higher dropout rates in high school. When you travel to the north central part of this country, like North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and then you go to the northeastern part of this country, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, etc., you have some of the lowest high school dropout rates. So this could reflect some problems with maybe the educational systems in these areas, perhaps. We could take a look at it from one decade to the next. High school graduates and college graduates. The blue line represents the high school graduates, the orange the college. And you can see as we move from 1910 to 2010, the number of high school graduates has increased significantly. It was like 11% of people graduated from high school in 1910. Now more of an emphasis is placed on free and appropriate public education in this country. You have to attend public school up to a certain point anyway. And we boast some of the highest high school graduation rates. We are at 86, 87% high school graduation rate in our country as of right now. So college graduates, the same deal. It was like 1 or 2% of people graduated from college in 1910. Fast forward to 2010, 30% of people, age appropriate, had acquired a college degree. And actually, we're going to go ahead and call that the end of the first part for this lecture. Thank you.